Hello, everyone. Bonjour. Добрий день усім. Thank you everyone so much for being here with us today. Щиро дякую всім, що долучилися до нас. Merci beaucoup à tout le monde pour nous avoir rejoints. This rally has been organized by the group of Ottawa Russian Embassy protesters in collaboration with Ukrainian student clubs, UCC Ottawa branch, and Maple Hope Foundation. Today we commemorate 1,000 days since the start of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, and more than 10 years since the war of 2014. We are here today to remember everything that Ukraine is going through due to brutal Russian aggression, to thank all of our supporters, and to call for action, which will help us liberate Ukraine as soon as possible and support Ukrainians impacted by war. It has been 1,000 days of full-scale war and occupation, but also 1,000 days of resistance and resilience. During this time, Ukrainians have learned how to sleep in bathtubs, basements, and subway stations to avoid bombing. They wear brightly colored pajamas to make sure rescue workers can find them in the rubble. Families are torn apart as people flee across the country and the world. Children are not safe in schools. Ukrainians have learned the sounds of air raid sirens, air defense systems, and missiles hitting their targets. Maple Hope Foundation is here today to share with us the sounds of war. At the immersive exhibition, they have headsets. You are welcome to go listen at any time throughout the ceremony. We warn you, it may not be the best soundtrack you have ever heard, but it will certainly bring you closer to Ukrainian reality. We will also be sharing stories from children about their experiences of war in their own words. For example, Stefania, a 13-year-old girl from Kyiv, explained how the war has impacted her life. After the war started, my life was turned upside down. My environment, my education, my sense of security, my views on almost everything. Most of my friends went abroad and now live there. And because of that, our communication has dropped to zero. Because of the war, it was forbidden to go to school. And we switched to distance learning. But then they started turning off the power, so I didn't understand the topics because I couldn't go to the online lessons. Constant air raid sirens and reports about missiles hitting nearby targets has made it impossible to feel safe. But the war is so much more than what happens on the front lines, and so much more than just the visible destructions in civilian cities that we see on the news. Once the Russian army takes Ukrainian territory, they begin a new war of occupation. The prisoners of war of Ukraine are not only Ukrainian soldiers, but also captured civilians who are deemed political prisoners for small actions such as wearing colors of blue and yellow, and medical personnel. The people who have successfully returned from Russian captivity have signs of beating, torture, bruises, sexual assault, and they have broken teeth and bones. Russia violates the requirements of the Geneva Convention, and we must speak to make sure that this issue has been raised and remembered. The war of the occupied territories is aimed to make everyone Russian. We are at the Human Rights Monument today to remind us of all of the Ukrainians lose when they are left on Russia's side of the borders, and why we must never leave them behind. Kostya, a 14-year-old boy from Kherson, selflessly protected his family from a house raid. When I returned home from getting food, there were two soldiers. They pointed automatic rifles at me and asked who I was. I answered their questions. They said that they had information that Ukrainian military was in our house. And I said, there's only my father and my two sisters. So they said, go ahead, tell them to open the door. But I didn't do what they wanted me to do. I pretended to knock. And then when my sisters ran up, I whispered to them, don't open the door. The whole yard was filled with these military men. They shoved me in a basement nearby with a sack over my head and tied my hands. Ukrainians in occupation have learned how to survive in house raids and checkpoints, cover any connection to Ukraine, fill their phones with pro-Russian content and contacts, and if they're lucky, how to hide a phone so they can keep contact with the outside world. Ukrainians have learned the consequences of looking disloyal, being denied medical care, being murdered or sent to a prison or a torture camp, or having children abducted. Thousands of Ukraine's children have been taken to so-called recreational holiday camps and then deported for their safety deeper into Russia without their parents' knowledge, making it very hard for them to be found. These children are eventually declared orphans and adopted by Russian families. Daniil, 14 years old, explained how his two-week holiday camp turned into an abduction. He said, "The chief of security told us that we would be staying there for a year because Russia had left Kherson and it wasn't safe for us to be returned to Ukrainian soldiers. They told us our parents had abandoned us and that they wouldn't come and pick us up. Adoption discussions began. But the children said, 'I already have a mother. Why would you take me to an orphanage?'" Russia is attacking Ukraine's future by attacking our children. In 2014, Ukraine had 8.1 million children. By 2024, only 4.5 million children remain in Ukraine-controlled areas. 2 million are refugees abroad. 1.5 million Ukrainian children now live under Russian occupation. There are 19,546 confirmed cases of Ukrainian children being forcibly deported to Russia, a violation of Geneva Conventions and an act of genocide. In schools and camps, Ukrainian children are forbidden from speaking Ukrainian or talking about anything Ukrainian. Children undergo heavy indoctrination to hate Ukraine, love Russia, and join the army, being told by teachers that they should be proud to die for Putin. A 14-year-old girl, Diana, compared her holiday camp to a prison. "When we got there, some rooms, even the toilets, didn't have doors. It felt more like a closed prison environment. Even small children were locked up in isolation for 3 to 4 days for violating the rules. Numerous inspections took place. We were made to perform, to smile at them, to sing patriotic songs, and to cheer, 'Go Russia!' But they forced the Ukrainian army from our city and then pretended to be our saviors. But it's just nonsense. If people think that everything was okay for the children that Russia stole, it's far from the truth. The kids are scared and they want to go home to their parents." Kostya then explained how they tried to keep him in Russia after his sister found him. He said, "They told us in the camp that if you return to Ukraine, they could execute you just because you were in Russia, because you are a traitor. In Russia, we were intimidated. They were trying to confuse our brains so that we wouldn't leave, to turn us against Ukraine. I went home because I realized that if I stayed in Russia, I would never see my father, and they would never let me go. We are incredibly thankful for all of your support that you have given us over 1,000 days of this brutal Russian aggression. And we would like to list the countries that have confirmed that to have a representative, to have at least one Ukrainian Defense Contact Group meeting.
We thank Argentina, Australia, Austria, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Cyprus, Georgia, Ireland, Japan, Kenya, Kosovo, Liberia, Malta, Moldova, New Zealand, South Korea, Tunisia, European Union, NATO, which includes Albania, Belgium, Bulgaria, Canada, Croatia, Czechoslovakia, Czech Republic, Denmark, Estonia, Finland, France, Germany, Greece, Hungary, Iceland, Italy, Latvia, Lithuania, Luxembourg, Montenegro, Netherlands, North Macedonia, Norway, Poland, Portugal, Romania, Slovakia, Slovenia, Spain, Sweden, Turkey, United Kingdom, United States.
The following countries' participation in Ukraine Defense Contact Group are not publicly confirmed, though they are confirmed to have provided military aid, lethal and non-lethal, to Ukraine.
Azerbaijan, Cambodia, Colombia, Israel, Jordan, Morocco, Pakistan, Sudan, Taiwan. We thank you.
As of now, we have heard from some of the children that survived Russian aggression. We must also remember those who didn't. We have made 589 bells to commemorate 589 children who were killed by Russians, so we can be their voices. Please take the bells and ring them. And now let's have a moment of silence. Thank you, Dafur. Merci. I would like to now introduce our guest speakers. Our first speaker is Igor Michalchishin. Igor is the executive director of the Ukrainian-Canadian Congress.
Дякую всім. Thank you to all of our friends who are here once again, diplomatic communities, senators, members of parliament, friends from other communities, and all of our friends in the Ukrainian community. 1,000 days is a shocking number. Today, we mark the day, we honor the courage of the Ukrainian people who are defending their country, and we remember those who've given their lives for Ukraine's freedom. May their memory be eternal. Vichna yim pamyat. Today, we honor the soldiers who fight with courage and ingenuity. We honor the firefighters who extinguished the blazes caused by Russian airstrikes. We honor the engineers who restore power to cities and towns after missile attacks. We honor the doctors and nurses who treat the patients every day. We honor the teachers who continue to teach Ukraine's children in bomb shelters and subway stations. And again, we thank the many friends and allies of Ukraine around the world who continue to support the war effort and humanitarian needs. Ukrainians fight not only in defense of their own freedom, but that of the freedom of all of ours. We call on our government of Canada and governments of all democratic states to provide Ukraine with more weapons, more economic aid, so that they can win this war. I thank the organizers of the event today for bringing us together, and we ask God to bring victory to Ukraine. Slava Ukraini!
Героям слава!
I would like to invite Marina Vyankina, the president of the... No? Okay, thank you. I would like to invite the Honorable, His Excellency, Lithuanian Ambassador.
Dear friends, 1,000 days of brutal war against Ukraine. It's a very sad day, and it's not that I don't know what to say, but I'm just thinking and rethinking what the West and all those so-claimed friends did in those 1,000 days. You remember first days when providing helmets to Ukrainian soldiers was too provocative. We are moving forward, but in Lithuania's understanding, not as fast as we should be doing in the West. And recent announcements, they sound good, but still we believe that those countries who have means to be provided could do more. And your dedication to especially protesters group is is really an inspiration. And I think the least we all can do is to continue supporting Ukraine in any possible means, hoping that the eyes of the leaders of the West will be wide open sooner rather than later. Slava Ukraini!
Героям слава!
Thank you very much, Ambassador. I would like to now invite the Honorable Stanley Kutcher, the Independent Senator of Nova Scotia.
Дуже дякую і привіт. Я Святослав Кучер, я сенатор Нова Скоша, і я підтримую Україну. Я буду говорити по-англійськи, бо всі тут знають англійську, а всі тут не знають по-українськи, окей? Okay. First, I would like to acknowledge my wonderful friend and colleague, Senator Donna Dasko, Donna, from Ontario. And Donna and I have been writing op-eds, phoning people, talking to every parliamentarian you can think of and ones that you can't to promote more support for Ukraine. In fact, I think it was Donna's and mine editorial in the Hill Times which changed Joe Biden's mind, and he now lets them strike Ukraine out of Ukraine into Russia. So thank you, Donna, for doing that.
Дякую!
Obviously a senator, but I'm also a child and adolescent psychiatrist. And I want to talk a little bit about the children. And I'm talking about children not just theoretically, but I have family who have young children in Kyiv who spend every night in the bomb shelters. And I have family who have children in Lviv and in Ternopil. And they live in dread. The families don't know when the child goes to school if the child will come home. And the children don't know when they go to school if there will be a home for them to come to. Russia has stolen hundreds of thousands of Ukrainian children. They have brought them to Russia. They have stripped them of their identity. We are concerned that some of them have been forced into labor or sexual trafficking. This is horrible. This is a complete violation of every human decency that we know about. It is genocide. And Russia is a member of the Security Council, and it is still waging war on a sovereign state. Canada is part of the solution to that problem. And I just want to recognize the good work that the Canadian government has started in bringing children back. Organizations like Save Ukraine that have started bringing children back. One of the persons that works in my office, Zanya Zubri, Sana is here. She's been working hard to help that happen. Thank you for all that work. The other thing that's a real concern to me as a child and adolescent psychiatrist is the violence. These children are growing up with violence. They have lost family members. They have lost friends. They have lost their childhood. And the longer this war continues, the more childhood they will have lost. And finally, I want to talk a little bit about mental health. That's my specialty after all. And this war not only causes huge trauma to people, but it causes difficulties that will last into the future generations. This war needs healing. This war needs investment in services and in care for young people and their families. But most of all, this war needs to end with a Ukrainian victory, and it needs to end now. Сьогодні, тепер, not ні завтра. Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Щиро дякую, Сенатор Кучер. Again, thank you everyone for being here today. Your presence matters, and together we have the power to make real difference. Now more than ever, it is crucial that we step up and take action in every way we can. The people of Ukraine need us to be their voices, their supporters, and their allies. Our final message today is clear. We must act, and we must act now. So what do we do? Our help in Ukraine constitutes of big and small everyday actions. So some of the bigger things that can be events in your lives that you can participate in is attending rallies like this one. We really appreciate you being here. The more people we have, the stronger we are. Speak to the media representatives, local newspapers or channels or broad presentations. Write to your MPs and other government representatives to remind them about Ukraine and urge for more aid for Ukraine, humanitarian, military, and any other support that we can get. But also we must never underestimate the importance of the small everyday actions, such as donating small amounts of money for the Ukrainian armed forces. The smallest donations usually make the biggest difference, and your $1 can be about 30 hryvnias right now. And this is how we collect all of the medical supplies, all of the drones, and everything else that we might need. That speeds up the victory. Hang up your Ukrainian flags on your windows. We really appreciate it. As a newcomer to Canada, I am always and forever touched whenever I see a Ukrainian flag or a little sign on your houses. Post on social media, and overall do everything to make sure that Ukraine remains visible and we are on the steady road to survive and to prosper together. Thank you very much. So for closing remarks, I would like to give you a reminder about the Maple Hope Foundation Sounds of War immersive exhibition. It is still here on the table. Please, please, please take a look at it before you leave. And follow us on social media as the protesters and see the Maple Hope and the Ukrainian Students Club at the University of Ottawa in Carleton. And if you have any questions or concerns, we are here. We are happy to speak to all of you. Thank you. Дякую. Merci.
Exactly.